The massive crystal palace stretched across the horizon like a frozen mountain range, its towers piercing the purple sky of Valthera Prime. Inside its deepest chambers, something that had never happened in 3,000 years was finally occurring. The Dragon Emperor was dying. Corvathes the Eternal lay on a platform carved from a single piece of starlight crystal, his enormous form barely fitting in the cavernous room. His scales, once brilliant gold threaded with silver cybernetic lines, had dulled to a sickly bronze. The mechanical components fused to his chest flickered weakly, their usual steady hum replaced by an irregular stuttering that echoed through the chamber like a broken heartbeat. For 30 centuries, this being had ruled over 1,000 worlds with wisdom that came from watching civilizations rise and fall. His people, the Draconians, revered him not just as an emperor but as a living god. Children across the galaxy grew up hearing stories of his legendary strength, his fair judgments, and his ability to unite species that had warred for millennia. But now, those same people could only watch helplessly as their immortal ruler faced something he had never encountered before, his own mortality. The problem lay in his chest, where organic dragon heart met quantum-powered machinery. This fusion had been the marvel of ancient bioengineering, allowing Corvathes to live far beyond any natural lifespan while maintaining the wisdom and strength needed to govern such a vast empire. The quantum core had powered not just his extended life, but his enhanced abilities, his telepathic connection to his subjects, his incredible physical strength, and his capacity to process information from thousands of worlds simultaneously. Now, after 3 millennia of perfect synchronization, the organic and mechanical components were rejecting each other. The quantum field that had once stabilized his biological functions was becoming chaotic, sending painful surges through his system. Each day brought new failures, his telepathic abilities flickering in and out, his strength ebbing like a tide that refused to return. The Empire's greatest doctors had tried everything. Teams of bioengineers worked around the clock, running simulations and proposing solutions that all led to the same conclusion. The integration was too complex and too old to repair using conventional methods. The quantum matrix had grown too intertwined with his biological systems to simply replace, and any attempt to separate them would kill him instantly. What made the situation even more desperate was draconian law. Ancient traditions prevented anyone from approaching the emperor without invitation, even in his time of need. His subjects could only wait at a respectful distance, watching their living god slowly fade away. The political implications were staggering. Without Corvathes, the carefully maintained peace between 1,000 worlds would crumble. Already, reports were coming in of border disputes resuming, trade agreements being questioned, and old enemies eyeing each other with renewed suspicion. Meanwhile, millions of light-years away in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, completely unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding, a young human was tinkering with broken machinery on a small mining station. Devin Carter wiped grease from his hands with an old rag, squinting at the engine he had been working on for the past 6 hours. The mining station Gamma 7 wasn't much to look at, a collection of prefab modules connected by enclosed walkways, orbiting a barren asteroid field that barely yielded enough rare minerals to keep the operation profitable. The human crew of 12 worked with equipment that other species would consider obsolete, making do with spare parts and creative solutions that would make proper engineers cringe. Devin had always been good with machines, even as a kid growing up on Earth's lunar colonies. While other children played with toys, he took apart household appliances to see how they worked. His parents thought he might become an engineer, but Devin preferred the hands-on approach of fixing things that were already broken rather than designing new ones. When humanity had finally made contact with galactic civilization 15 years ago, Devin had been among the first wave of humans to venture into space. Most humans stayed close to home, intimidated by the vast civilizations that had existed for millennia. But Devin was curious about alien technology, eager to learn how other species solved mechanical problems. The galactic community had been polite but dismissive of humans. They were newcomers, after all, their entire technological development compressed into a few centuries while other species had refined their sciences over millennia. Human engineering was considered crude but occasionally innovative, like a child's finger painting that accidentally created something beautiful. Devin didn't mind the condescension. He was too busy learning, studying every piece of alien technology he could get his hands on. The mining station gave him access to equipment from dozens of different species, broken ships, abandoned mining gear, and discarded components that other engineers had written off as unfixable. That was when the distress beacon changed everything. The signal came through on old emergency frequencies, weak and intermittent, speaking of a derelict vessel drifting in the nearby sector. To most crews, it would have been just another salvage opportunity. But this ship was different. Its design unlike anything in the current databases, elegant curves that seemed to blend organic and mechanical elements in ways that shouldn't have been possible. When Devon first stepped aboard the ancient vessel, he knew he had found something extraordinary. The salvage ship Wanderer had seen better days, but Captain Zara Mitchell knew how to get the most out of her aging vessel. When the distress beacon led them to the ancient Draconian ship, she expected another routine salvage operation. What they found instead was a vessel that defied everything they knew about galactic technology. The ship's hull seemed to breathe, its surface shifting between metallic panels and what looked like organic tissue. Devon ran his scanner over the strange material, getting readings that made no sense. "Captain, this thing's been drifting for at least 500 years, but the power core is still active. And get this, the entire ship seems to be one massive biomechanical system." Inside the vessel, Devon felt like he was walking through the arteries of some enormous creature. Corridors pulsed with bioluminescent veins that carried both data and nutrients to different sections of the ship. The technology was so advanced that Devon could barely understand its basic functions, let alone how it had been constructed. In the ship's central chamber, they discovered something that would change Devon's life forever: detailed schematics and medical records of the Dragon Emperor's failing heart system. The holographic displays showed three-dimensional models of organs and machinery so perfectly integrated that Devon couldn't tell where biology ended and technology began. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. Kai Chin, the station's medical officer who had joined the salvage mission. "Look at this integration level. The quantum matrix isn't just connected to the biological systems, it's become part of them. This is centuries beyond anything we've seen." Devon studied the schematics with growing fascination. His mechanical mind began to trace the energy flows and bioneural pathways, seeing patterns that the formal education of Dr. Chen had missed. "Actually, I think I understand what's happening here. The quantum field has created a feedback loop with the organic components. Over time, they've become so synchronized that they can't function independently anymore." What Devon didn't realize was that the ship's ancient AI had been monitoring their every word, analyzing Devon's unique insights into the hybrid technology. Within hours of their departure, quantum communications arrays across the galaxy began transmitting encrypted messages to the highest levels of Draconian command. 3 days later, Mining Station Gamma 7 received visitors that sent shockwaves through the small human crew. The Imperial fleet materialized out of hyperspace like something from a dream, or a nightmare depending on your perspective. 12 massive vessels, each one larger than the entire mining station, arranged themselves in perfect formation around the tiny human outpost. Their hulls gleamed with the same biomechanical integration Devon had studied on the derelict ship, but these vessels pulsed with active power that made space itself seem to shimmer around them. Engineer Tyrone Washington was the first to spot them on the sensors. "Captain Mitchell, you need to see this. We've got contact and it's big. Really big." The bridge of Gamma 7 erupted in controlled panic. Contact with the Draconian Empire was rare, and it usually meant trouble for smaller operations like theirs. The Draconians weren't hostile, but they had little patience for the minor concerns of newer species. Their arrival always meant something significant was happening. When the lead vessel requested permission to dock, Captain Mitchell had no choice but to agree. Refusing would have been both futile and incredibly stupid. The docking bay barely had room for the Imperial shuttle, a sleek vessel that seemed to be grown rather than built. The beings that emerged were unlike anything the human crew had ever seen up close. Draconians stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in scales that shifted color depending on the light. Their faces combined reptilian features with an intelligence that spoke of ancient wisdom. But what truly impressed Devon was their technology. Every piece of equipment they carried seemed alive, responding to their thoughts and emotions rather than mechanical commands. The leader of the delegation introduced himself as Commander Vextal, first voice of the Imperial Guard. His presence filled the small docking bay, and when he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute authority. "We seek the human called Devon Carter, he who studies the harmony between flesh and machine." The request sent ripples of confusion through the crew. Devon stepped forward, trying to hide his nervousness. "I'm Devon Carter. What do you want with me?" Commander Vextal's expression remained unreadable, but there was something almost desperate in his ancient eyes. "Our Emperor, Corvathes the Eternal, Lord of 1,000 worlds, requests your presence. He has studied your insights into biomechanical integration and believes you may possess knowledge that could save his life." The words hit the crew like a physical blow. The Dragon Emperor, legendary ruler of the most powerful civilization in known space, was asking for help from a human mechanic working on a rundown mining station. It seemed impossible, like a cosmic joke that had gotten out of hand. "I don't understand," Devon said, his voice barely steady. "I'm nobody special. I just fix broken machines." "Perhaps," Commander Vextal replied, "but our greatest medical minds have failed where your unconventional approach might succeed. The Emperor's life hangs by a thread, and with it, the stability of 1,000 worlds. Time grows short, human. Will you answer the call?" Devon looked around at his crew, his family, really, seeing his own shock reflected in their faces. Captain Mitchell nodded slowly, understanding that this wasn't really a choice. When the ruler of the galaxy's most powerful empire asked for help, you didn't refuse. "I'll come," Devon said, sealing his fate with those simple words. "But I can't promise I can help." Commander Vextal's expression softened slightly. "Hope is all we have left, young human. Perhaps that will be enough." The journey to Valthera Prime took 3 days aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Dawn. Devon had never experienced anything like it. The ship moved through space as smoothly as a fish swimming through water, its biomechanical systems responding to the crew's thoughts and emotions. The walls themselves seemed alive, pulsing gently with bioluminescent patterns that the Draconians called the ship's heartbeat. During the voyage, Devon worked alongside Dr. Lila Brooks, a xenobiologist who had been hastily recruited from Earth's Lunar Research Station. Together, they studied every piece of data the Draconians could provide about their Emperor's condition. The more Devon learned, the more impossible the situation seemed. "Look at these readings," Dr. Brooks said, pointing to a holographic display that showed the Emperor's failing biomechanical heart. "The quantum matrix has been integrated with his organic systems for 3,000 years. At this point, they're not separate components anymore. They've evolved into something entirely new." Devon traced the energy patterns with his finger, his mechanical intuition picking up details that formal medical training might have missed. The problem isn't just that the systems are failing. They're fighting each other. After all this time, the quantum field has started resonating at a frequency that his organic heart can't match anymore. Commander Vextal, who had been quietly observing their work, stepped forward. "Our physicians have reached similar conclusions. The integration that once gave our Emperor eternal life has become his death sentence. The biomechanical fusion cannot be undone without killing him instantly." "What about replacement?" Dr. Brooks suggested. "Could we build him a new heart?" "Impossible," Vextal replied, his scaled features darkening. "The quantum matrix has grown roots throughout his entire circulatory system. It would be like trying to replace the foundation of a building while people still lived inside." Devon continued studying the schematics, his mind working through possibilities that others might dismiss as crazy. Humans had only been part of galactic civilization for 15 years, but they had brought something unique to the table, a willingness to try solutions that seemed impossible to more established species. "What if we don't replace it?" Devon said suddenly. "What if we share the load?" The room fell silent. Dr. Brooks stared at him as if he had suggested flying into a black hole. Commander Vextal's expression became unreadable in the way that Draconians adopted when dealing with concepts that challenged their understanding. "Explain," Vextal said carefully. Devon pulled up a new holographic display, his hands moving quickly as he sketched out his idea. "The quantum matrix is failing because it can't maintain synchronization with just one organic heart anymore. But what if it had 2 hearts to work with? What if someone else shared the biomechanical load?" Dr. Brooks immediately began shaking her head. "Devon, that's insane. You're talking about linking 2 completely different biological systems through quantum entanglement. The rejection alone would kill both subjects." "Not necessarily," Devon continued, his excitement building as the idea took shape. "Look at the harmonic patterns. Human cardiovascular systems operate at different frequencies than draconian ones. If we could create a bridge between them, the quantum matrix might be able to stabilize by switching between 2 different resonance points." Commander Vextal's scales had gone completely dark, a sign of deep disturbance among his people. "Human, what you suggest has never been attempted. The risks are beyond calculation." "I know," Devon admitted. "But the alternative is watching your Emperor die while 1,000 worlds fall into chaos." When they finally reached Valthera Prime, the planet's condition shocked even the hardened Imperial crew. Usually, the capital world blazed with the light of millions of cities, its orbital stations creating rings of activity around the globe. Now the lights were dimmed, the orbital traffic reduced to emergency vessels only. The entire planet was in mourning. The Imperial Palace was even more overwhelming than Devon had imagined. Crystal spires stretched kilometers into the atmosphere, their surfaces covered with biomechanical gardens that pulsed with soft light. Inside, corridors wide enough for starships led to chambers that could have housed entire cities. But it was in the Emperor's private medical wing that Devon truly understood the magnitude of what they were facing. The room was vast, filled with medical equipment that seemed to grow from the walls themselves. At its center, on a platform of living crystal, lay Corvathes the Eternal. Even dying, the Dragon Emperor was magnificent. His scales, though dulled by illness, still carried the intricate patterns of cybernetic integration that marked him as something beyond ordinary biology. His eyes, when they opened to regard his visitors, held the weight of 3,000 years of accumulated wisdom and sorrow. "So," Corvathes said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in Devon's chest, "you are the human who thinks he can save a dying god." Devon felt his knees go weak, but he forced himself to stand straight. "I'm just a mechanic, Your Majesty. But I think I understand what's wrong with your heart." The Emperor's expression shifted, showing the first hint of hope Devon had seen since entering the room. "Then speak, young human. Time grows short." Devon explained his theory about biomechanical symbiosis, about sharing the quantum load between two different cardiovascular systems. As he spoke, he watched the Emperor's expression change from skepticism to understanding to something that might have been desperate hope. When Devon finished, the room remained silent for a long moment. Then Corvathes spoke, his words carrying the weight of inevitability. "What you propose would bind us together permanently. Our hearts would beat as one, our life forces intertwined until death claims us both. Are you prepared for such a bond, young human?" Devon thought of his simple life on the mining station, of the freedom he would lose, of the cosmic responsibility he would gain. Then he thought of 1,000 worlds falling into war and chaos. "If it saves your life and keeps the peace," Devon said quietly, "then yes. I'm ready." The preparation for the procedure took 2 days, and every moment felt like walking toward the edge of a cliff. Devon spent hours in medical chambers that seemed more like organic cocoons, as draconian bioengineers ran endless scans of his cardiovascular system. The equipment wrapped around him like living vines, mapping every heartbeat, every blood vessel, every nerve that would need to connect with the Emperor's quantum-enhanced biology. Dr. Lila Brooks worked alongside the Imperial medical team, her human perspective proving invaluable in bridging the gap between two completely different approaches to medicine. "Devon, I need you to understand what we're attempting here," she said during one of their planning sessions. "This isn't just surgery, it's creating an entirely new form of life. Once those quantum filaments connect your heart to the Emperor's, there's no going back." The draconian physicians were equally concerned, though for different reasons. Chief Medical Engineer Torvash had overseen the Emperor's health for 2 centuries, and the idea of linking his patient to an alien biology went against everything he had learned. "The quantum matrix responds to draconian neural patterns," he explained through his translator device. "We have no way of knowing how it will react to human brain chemistry." Devon tried to stay calm, but the weight of what he was about to do kept hitting him in waves. During quiet moments he would catch himself thinking about his old life, the simple problems of fixing broken engines, the camaraderie of his mining station crew, the freedom to make choices that only affected himself. Soon, his decisions would impact the fate of entire worlds. The night before the procedure, Emperor Corvathes requested a private audience. Devon found himself in the Emperor's personal chambers, a space that felt more like a living cave than a room. Bioluminescent plants provided soft light, and the walls pulsed gently with the rhythm of some vast circulatory system. "I have lived for 3,000 years, Corvathes said, his massive form resting on a platform designed to support his biomechanical bulk. "In that time I have seen species rise and fall, watched civilizations bloom like flowers and crumble like dust. But I have always been alone at the center of it all." Devon sat in silence, unsure how to respond to such ancient loneliness. "Tomorrow, if we survive, that solitude ends," the Emperor continued. "We will share more than just a heartbeat, young human. Our thoughts, our emotions, our very life forces will be intertwined. Are you prepared for such intimacy with a being you barely know?" "I don't think anyone could be prepared for that," Devon admitted. "But if it means preventing a galactic war, then I have to try." The Emperor's ancient eyes studied Devon with an intensity that felt like being examined under a microscope. "You speak of duty, but I sense something more. Why does a human mechanic risk everything for people he has never met?" Devon thought about the question for a long moment. "Because someone has to. Because if I don't try, I'll never know if I could have made a difference. And because—" he paused, searching for the right words. "Because maybe that's what being human means, caring about others even when it doesn't make logical sense." The morning of the procedure arrived with the soft chiming of crystal bells throughout the palace. Devon was taken to the surgical chamber, a vast space that seemed to exist at the intersection of technology and biology. The walls were covered with living circuits that pulsed with soft light, and the air itself felt charged with potential energy. The surgical platform in the center of the room was large enough to accommodate both Devon and the Emperor. Biomechanical arms descended from the ceiling like mechanical spiders, each one tipped with instruments that seemed to blend scalpels with living tissue. The quantum matrix that would connect their hearts floated in a containment field nearby, its crystalline structure shifting through colors that had no names in human language. Dr. Brooks squeezed Devon's shoulder as he lay down on the platform. The sedation will keep you conscious but relaxed. We need you awake for the neural integration phase. As the anesthesia took hold, Devon felt his awareness expand and contract like breathing. He could hear the Emperor's massive heart beating slowly beside him, each pulse echoing through the chamber like distant thunder. The biomechanical arms began their work, making precise incisions that felt more like gentle pressure than pain. The quantum matrix was the most beautiful and terrifying thing Devon had ever seen up close. As the surgeons prepared to install it, the crystalline structure began to resonate with both heartbeats, creating harmonics that seemed to reach into Devon's soul. The moment the first quantum filament touched his heart, the world exploded into sensation. Devon felt the Emperor's memories flooding through him like a river of liquid light. 3,000 years of experience crashed into his consciousness, the weight of making decisions that affected billions of lives, the loneliness of absolute power, the constant burden of being responsible for galactic peace. At the same time he sensed Korvathes experiencing human memories with equal intensity, the simple joy of fixing a broken engine, the warmth of friendship among equals, the freedom of a life lived without cosmic responsibility. Their hearts began to beat in perfect synchronization, the quantum matrix creating a bridge between two completely different forms of life. Devon felt his human biology adapting to the increased energy flow, his senses expanding beyond anything he had thought possible. Meanwhile, Korvathes' ancient system stabilized as they gained access to the adaptability and resilience of human physiology. The procedure lasted 8 hours, but for Devon and the Emperor, it felt like living through several lifetimes. When the surgeons finally stepped back, two beings had become something entirely new while remaining fundamentally themselves. The quantum matrix pulsed with steady light between them, carrying more than just life force. It carried understanding, empathy, and the beginning of a bond that would reshape the galaxy. The recovery period was unlike anything medical science had ever documented. Devon and Emperor Korvathes lay side by side in the crystal chamber, their shared heartbeat creating a rhythm that seemed to harmonize with the very walls of the palace. The quantum matrix between them pulsed with steady light, carrying not just life force but a constant flow of thoughts and emotions between two vastly different minds. Dr. Lila Brooks monitored their progress with fascination and growing amazement. "Their vital signs are incredible," she reported to the assembled medical team. Devon's human adaptability is helping the Emperor's systems regenerate at an accelerated rate, while the quantum enhancement is extending Devon's cellular repair capabilities far beyond normal human limits. Within the first week, the changes became obvious to everyone. Emperor Korvathes, who had been fading like a dying star just days earlier, now moved with renewed strength and vitality. His scales regained their brilliant golden luster, threaded with silver cybernetic lines that pulsed in perfect rhythm with Devon's heartbeat. Meanwhile, Devon found his human senses expanded in ways he never could have imagined. He could perceive quantum fluctuations, understand complex alien languages intuitively, and process information at speeds that amazed even the draconian scientists. But the most profound changes went deeper than biology. The neural link created by their shared heart allowed them to experience each other's perspectives in ways that transformed their understanding of leadership, responsibility, and what it meant to care for others. "I can feel what he feels when he makes decisions for entire worlds," Devon explained to Dr. Brooks during one of their sessions. "The weight of it, the loneliness, but also the deep love he has for all the species under his protection. And he's experiencing what it's like to see problems from the ground up, to understand the daily struggles of ordinary people." The political implications rippled across the galaxy within months. Devon, now bearing the title of Heart Brother to the Emperor, became something unprecedented in galactic politics, a bridge between the cosmic perspective of ancient wisdom and the innovative energy of humanity's newest voice in the galactic community. Ambassador Zara Thompson arrived from Earth 3 months after the procedure, leading humanity's first formal diplomatic mission to the draconian capital. She found a very different empire than the one described in the intelligence reports. "Devon, what you've accomplished here goes beyond saving one life," she said during their first meeting. "You've created a new model for interspecies cooperation." The changes started small but grew exponentially. Devon's human perspective influenced the Emperor's approach to governance, leading to reforms that had seemed impossible under traditional draconian law. Ancient restrictions on interspecies collaboration were relaxed, allowing humans and other younger civilizations to contribute their innovations to imperial projects. Engineer Kai Washington, who had served with Devon on the mining station, was among the first to benefit from these changes. He arrived on Valthera Prime to find his old friend transformed but still essentially the same person who had shared late-night shifts fixing broken equipment. "Man, you've got quantum circuits running through your veins now, but you still explain things like you're talking to someone working on a busted engine," Kai laughed during their reunion. The biomechanical integration project became the centerpiece of a new era of technological advancement. Dr. Brooks worked with draconian scientists to develop safer methods of species integration, leading to medical breakthroughs that helped beings across the galaxy. Captain Riley Johnson, who had commanded the mining station's small security force, now oversaw training programs that taught humans to work with biomechanical systems while showing draconians the value of human improvisational thinking. Years passed, and the galaxy watched in amazement as the Draconian Empire evolved from an ancient, rigid hierarchy into something more flexible and innovative. The Emperor's connection to Devon brought fresh perspectives to problems that had seemed unsolvable, while Devon's link to 3,000 years of wisdom helped him understand the complex balance required to maintain peace among so many different species. The mining station Gamma 7 became an unlikely pilgrimage site for beings studying the new model of interspecies cooperation. Commander Alex Torres, who had taken over Devon's old position, often found himself giving tours to delegations from across the galaxy, showing them the humble workshop where a human mechanic had first studied the biomechanical schematics that would change everything. "People want to understand how it happened," Torres explained to visiting dignitaries. "How a guy who just wanted to fix broken things ended up connected to the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. But I think they're missing the point. Devon didn't save the Emperor because he was special. He did it because he saw a problem and couldn't walk away from trying to fix it." The shared heartbeat between Devon and Emperor Corvathes became more than a medical marvel. It became a symbol of what was possible when different forms of life chose trust over fear, cooperation over isolation. Their connection proved that strength didn't come from standing alone at the top of a hierarchy, but from building bridges between different ways of understanding the universe. Trade routes that had been restricted for centuries opened up to human vessels. Research stations staffed by mixed crews began making discoveries that neither species could have achieved alone. Children from dozens of worlds grew up hearing new stories, not just about the wisdom of ancient rulers or the innovation of young species, but about the power that came from combining both in harmony. Devon often stood with the Emperor on the observation deck of the Crystal Palace, watching ships from 100 different worlds arrive and depart from the capital. Their hearts beat as one, carrying the rhythm of a new kind of empire, one built not on the dominance of any single species, but on the recognition that every form of life had something valuable to contribute to the cosmic community. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from a dying emperor and a human mechanic. Sometimes the most unlikely partnerships create the strongest foundations for the future.